Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter Biancamano. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And we are here at Hoboken High School, located at 800 Clinton Street. And we're excited to be back because we're going to get historical here today. And I'm not talking about the gentleman to my right. He's a very young man, I swear. But he is my good friend, Chris Munoz, the history teacher here at Hoboken High School. Chris, finally on the show.
Thank you for having me, Peter.
Absolutely. How are you today?
Good, great.
Great
Excited you're here. Thank you for coming.
Good to hear. Well, I gave the audience a little bit of prelude about how we're getting historical here, and that's because Hoboken High School and the Hoboken District Schools have partnered with the Hoboken Historical Museum, and which is just phenomenal, and I'm excited to hear about it. How did you guys partner with them?
Okay, so this is a course, the first of its kind. I say the spring of 2024, Dr. Johnson called myself into the office with Bob Foster, the director of the museum.
Who, stay tuned, we'll be on next.
And said, good plug there, and said that we'd like to focus more on Hoboken history, and would I like to teach the course? And I just jumped at the opportunity. I actually begged her if I could teach the course. It was amazing. So basically, this course focuses on local history, which is, like I said, the only one of its kind in Hudson County. No other school district does this. We have a course called the Social, Economic, and Political Importance of Hoboken,
which say that 10 times fast.
And we are, Hoboken is a jewel in Hudson County, and we are learning all about it in our high school.
That's awesome.
It is an elective course for upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors, and we currently have 19 kids enrolled in the course.
Wow. And 19, and I think the maximum class size here is 20.
20,
so
correct.
for a first-year course, it seems to be extremely popular.
Absolutely.
Why do you think so?
Well, because I think it's important. Kids live here, and it's sad how little they know about the local history. We have US 1, we have US 2, we have AP courses, European history. But when do you get an opportunity to learn about what happened around your block 30 years ago?
Right.
It's absolutely amazing.
Absolutely. That is phenomenal. And you mentioned upon this, and we spoke about it before the segment started, in terms of it being a one-of-a-kind course in Hudson County in the state of New Jersey. There are no other courses that you can think of, or other districts rather, that you could think of that teaches this course, correct?
That is 100% true. This is unique to Hoboken, and thank you to Dr. Johnson for having the foresight, and especially my colleague, down at the Historical Museum, Bob Foster, who really have kind of put this together and helped us get to where we are today.
Well, we are plugging him like there's no tomorrow. Folks, stay tuned because Bob is coming on. So, Chris, if I was a student,
yes,
Mr. Munoz, sorry.
Yes, that's
I am in the school. If I was a student, what do I expect walking into your class?
Well, you are actually immersed in Hoboken. My classroom is decorated all Hoboken, stuff. And I know Bob is going to give us some stuff from the museum, so we can have like a little satellite museum here in my classroom from the Hoboken Historic Museum, some artifacts. So I'm looking forward to meeting with Bob about that. But what you can expect is a complete breakdown of Hoboken history from its inception, early immigration to today, to what it is today. So we start off with Hoboken immigration. We talk about the Dutch, the Germans, the Irish, Italians, and Puerto Ricans. And then we move on to industry, all the industry that used to be in Hoboken, railroads, shipping and receiving, trying to think manufacturing, textiles, processed foods,
right?
And all the industry that really kind of built Hoboken and then left and then transformed our vibrant city to what it is today, not only economically, but just the appearance of it.
Exactly.
That's the second, and then we move on to the political and social movements that have come through Hoboken, as recently as, the Black Lives Matter movement that happened just a couple years back. And then we finally wrap up to modern day Hoboken, the light rail, the T building, the waterfront, the beautiful piers that we built, how it happened, and, where we are today.
Just shows how unique the Hoboken School District is by offering this course. They say you learn history not to make the mistakes of the past, correct?
Absolutely.
And I thought I was going to fudge up that line. I'm glad I did. Chris Munoz, thank you so much. We are out of time.
Okay.
You've been plugging Bob Foster like there's no tomorrow, so he's going to come right after this quick commercial. But we hope to see you on the program again.
I would love to come back. And I know Bob's going to plug me too.
So I love that. All right, folks, don't go anywhere. All right, as promised, we're still here at Hoboken High School, and this time joined by the director of the Hoboken Historical Museum, and that is our good friend, Mr. Bob Foster. Welcome back to The Pulse. You've been on The Pulse before.
I feel the pulse.
Exactly, right? And it's just not all my energy here,
That's right.
Every time I get called to the principal's office, I get like anxiety or something like that. You know what I mean, Bob? So, as you can hear from Chris Munoz, who was just on the show a few seconds ago, this wonderful new program that the Hoboken District Schools is collaborating with the Hoboken Historical Museum, how did it come to your attention?
Well, basically, I think Dr. Johnson reached out along with Christopher Munoz a little while ago. And I think we started off, we played a vintage baseball game.
Is
We
that
have a
true?
vintage team that plays with the 1859 rules. And when we met, Christopher was particularly excited about, hey, baseball and history and Hoboken. So we played a game, and then we said we should do some more things together. So this class that Christopher has developed is very exciting, and we're going to do everything we can to make it a real partnership.
That is wonderful. And Bob, you've been the director of the museum now for 30 years, and he's only like 40. Can you imagine? Bob, what's amazing is you work with a lot of different schools, whether it be in Hoboken or Hudson County or the state of New Jersey. But this program is unique to the Hoboken District Schools. How important is that?
Well, we've always had education projects, but generally it's not been the younger kids. A couple of years back, we did an exhibit on the fires in Hoboken, and we started to get some older kids, some of the high school kids, and I think word got out like, hey, the museum is nearby, and maybe we can do something with them. So it is so important that kids learn about their community. Many kids stay here and raise their families, and it's all part of telling the Hoboken story.
Absolutely, and that's fantastic. And as Mr. Munoz said earlier in the segment regarding the number of students that are in the class, it's 19 students for a first year elective, I should say. I mean, those are staggering numbers, and so on and so forth. What, as director of the museum, what do you hope the students learn as they go forward taking this course?
You know, Hoboken does have so much history, and I want them to appreciate it. I think of the whole town as a lot of it historical. So it's not only visiting the museum, but it's going to St. Anne's, it's going to your parents' mozzarella place and learning the history of food traditions.
Thank you for the plug. They're going to like that.
But you really can learn a lot about Hoboken just by kind of slowing down, looking at the architecture, and start to think about what made this town.
Yeah, that is fabulous. Well, we have about 90 seconds left. The museum, of course, is located at 1301 Hudson Street since 2001. So my math is correct. That's 23 years in this location, right in the alleyway between Shipyard Lane and Hudson Street.
And we're open 6 days a week.
I was going to say, if you want to plug any exhibit that you guys are featuring and your hours and so on.
Sure.
And so
The current exhibit is retrospective of a very notable photographer who lived here in Hoboken. It's up until the end of the year. And then our new exhibit, which opens at the end of January, will be called the Hoboken Meadows, and it's going to be the history of the west side of Hoboken, which people have not really thought about too much.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out to something that I've always admired that the museum does, and that's your merchandise. I mean, you were the ones who came out with the shirts, I believe, with the sixth borough notion, that Hoboken is the sixth borough notion. So like, I do want to give you the floor to give yourself a plug with that, if you don't mind.
No, we feel we have the best gift shop in Hoboken. Stan gives us a little competition, but in 100 square feet, we got a lot of stuff. So a lot of people come visit just for the gift shop.
Yeah, well,
and the free parking.
And the free parking, that's right, which is over at Little Man Garage, if I'm not mistaken.
3 hours,
That's it. And trust me, you're going to need all 3 hours, because for a very, very small space, you guys do a phenomenal job at, showcasing your exhibits and so on and so forth. Well, Bob Foster, congratulations with this new partnership with the Hoboken District Schools. I think this elective maybe will have multiple classes going forward with all the interest it's receiving.
Yeah, we hope it's just the beginning.
Absolutely. Great to see you again.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
All right, folks, from Hoboken High School, located at 800 Clinton Street in the beautiful city of Hoboken, New Jersey, we will be right back. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to go on our Facebook and our Instagram pages by searching The Pulse with Peter B, and like and follow us on each of those platforms.
We're constantly updating those pages with previews of each week's segments and cool stories. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our email address at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com.
Welcome back. I'm your host with the most, Josh Sotomayor Einstein, on this segment of The Pulse Without That Bum, Biancamano. I'm so glad to be joined by my friend, Ron Simoncini of the Mile Square Taxpayers Association.
You know, people sometimes ask me how come Biancamano doesn't interview you. I mean, he's got some esteem in the community. I just want to say that to you one time.
Well, it's low esteem, but it's some esteem. You're not wrong.
I'm glad to be here, buddy. Good to see you again.
I always love it when you're on the show. It means I'm not doing a segment with Peter, and also you're a great guy in your own right.
Thanks.
So tell us, I know there's been a lot of information out there going around the community about the Hoboken Housing Initiative that's up on the ballot in the referendum on Election Day.
Yeah, so the Hoboken Housing Initiative was brought by 5 Hoboken residents called the Committee of Petitioners. And they currently are asking Hoboken voters to support them in saying that when an apartment becomes vacated, it can be priced at what the landlord and the tenant agree to. And then thereafter it falls under rent control. And for that privilege, the property owner will pay $2,500 to be used for affordable housing in Hoboken.
So when I move out of my current apartment and look for a place with my girlfriend sometime in March or April, so my current apartment would then, if my landlord paid, what was it again?
$2,500.
Then for the next tenant, they could agree to an amount, and then it would fall while the tenant is there back again under normal Hoboken rent control rules.
That's correct. And there's a lot to say about the referendum and its impacts, in addition to providing funding for affordable housing, which, by the way, I don't know if you know the last time that the city actually created affordable housing in Hoboken. Do you know what it was?
Probably 1775.
It was more recent than that, 61 years ago. The city hasn't built an affordable housing unit in 61 years. And the last thing the city did with the $2,100 it spent on affordable housing last year, $2,100 is what the city spent from its Affordable Housing Trust Fund last year.
Wait, $2,100.
That's all they spent. So the referendum's drawn some criticism because, oh, it's only $2,500. Well, hold on a minute. When we charge somebody $2,500 rent, they scream and howl that it's too much money. So it's $2,500, probably over a 7-year period, somewhere near 4,000 to 5,000 units. So it'll generate $10 to $15 million for affordable housing in Hoboken, which when you ratchet that up with available grants and programs, you probably could end up building between 400 and 700 units. So it's a substantial amount of affordable housing available. Everybody knows affordable housing is needed in Hoboken. The other thing it does, though, is because the landlord now can price the apartment at what he wants, he's encouraged to make improvements to the apartment. There are many unfunded mandates that Hoboken property owners have to face, one of which is they have to change their fire escapes over. It's $50,000 for an 8-unit building.
Well, I have a couple of friends that own their own property, live in their own building, and they had to revamp or completely replace their fire escape recently, and there's no way for them to recoup that loss.
And what kind of a city insists that you spend that kind of money and then doesn't allow you to pass that along to the people who enjoy it, the tenants? What kind of a city increases property taxes 4 times what they allow the rent control increases to be? So the city knows it needs money, but the property owner has to figure it out with a quarter what the city gets as increases every year. It's ridiculous. So everybody knows when you walk past a rent control building in Hoboken, you can pick it out. Why is that building decrepit in Hoboken? Well, it's under rent control and the property owner can't afford the maintenance for it. So this allows the property owner to reinvest in the property, create the kind of housing that people who want to move in Hoboken, who want to live in Hoboken want. And by the way, that they can afford. Very few apartments in Hoboken ever go to somebody who needs a discount. They mostly go to people who are 6-figure earners, coming from New York, want the Hoboken lifestyle. And so what? We're going to constrain prices for them when they don't need it. We're going to constrain prices for kids from Stevens who what? Have parents who co-sign for them? Whose incomes are in the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars.
Stevens ain't cheap.
It's a terrible, terrible policy. And it strikes me as very odd that the city would defend it.
So let me ask you this. First, someone like myself, a renter, if I stayed in my current apartment, let's say my girlfriend dumped me, God forbid.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Hopefully, it doesn't happen. But she may wake up one day and realize, that she could do better. Regardless, so let's say that happens. Does that affect me as a current tenant?
No. So the referendum specifically states that this is an option and that all other provisions of the rent control ordinance remain in force. There's this boogeyman out there that says, oh my God, if a landlord could charge whatever he wants, they'll effort to get us out of the apartment. Well, first of all, Hoboken's got an obligation to stop that. The city enforces its rent control ordinance, and it should. Nobody should be allowed to do that. That's ridiculous. It's disgusting. And there hasn't been a case. So why is it that we're saying, well, that'll happen? You know what happens now? What happens is the apartment owner just doesn't register the unit. The apartment owner takes it out of rent control himself. And you don't see that activity, that scurrilous activity. So it's a canard, it's a defense. And the defense is this. Hoboken does not want to own up to its failures to provide affordable housing or its failures to properly regulate its rent-controlled housing stock. It's been failing at it for years and years and years, and that's why there's a referendum there. People are tired of it. Condo owners are tired of it. Condo owners are tired of knowing that there's six-figure earners who come in to get discounted rents in their apartments. That creates a tax gap where the current rent-controlled apartment gets devalued, so it contributes less to the tax base. You know who picks that up?
Who?
Condo owner. So now the condo owner who is also under rent control, that's the other thing. The Hoboken Rent Control Office holds that all condos in Hoboken are under rent control. So here's a condo owner. He can't sell his apartment for what it's worth to an investor because it's under rent control. And yet he has to pay property taxes as though he's a single family homeowner. And those property taxes subsidize the renter who doesn't need the subsidy.
Wait. So,
Tell me how much more backward the system could be.
well, I don't want to challenge the city council to make it more backwards because they would take up that challenge. But if I won the lottery tomorrow and I bought a condo and then I moved to Timbuktu and I was renting it out, I would still be under the rent control regime.
Based on 1985 data. The data starts in 1985.
Wow.
It's pathetic. It's ridiculous. And it's a defense mechanism on the part of the elected officials who have held on as hard as they can because they want to defend themselves. I'll tell you the story that really resonates with me the most. Councilman Cohen, who's been an advocate for the no vote, or an opponent of the yes vote, I should say, when confronted and they said to him, well, you should build a bunch of tall buildings so that we have affordable housing, so that we have housing for middle income earners, right? Workforce housing. You know what he said? He said, oh, that would change the character of the neighborhood. What's he talking about? So he's essentially saying, let these rent control owners allow me to claim that there's affordable housing in Hoboken when I know there's not. And for God's sake, don't build any more affordable housing because that changes the character of the neighborhood.
Well, it seems to me that
It's as hypocritical as you can be as an elected official to raise your hand and say you're for affordable housing and then eliminate any possibility that it exists.
Well, what I'm saying is it seems that the opposition wants to have its cake and eat it too, and you can't actually do that. You can't preserve the character of a neighborhood and actually increase affordable housing or increase housing, period, without changing that character of
There's
the
plenty
physical
of communities
neighborhood.
that build tons of affordable housing. They don't change the character of the community. They allow people who are waitresses, they allow people who are bartenders, they allow people who are cops to live where they work. Hoboken doesn't want that. Hoboken is right now under the influence of the Democratic Socialists of America. They're the people who are pushing this policy. And who are they? Look at who their directors and most active people are. People who work for J.P. Morgan, people who work for the Innocence Project, who are making over $100,000 themselves. Those are just kids that want the apartment cheap for themselves. One guy said, oh, you know why I'm supporting why I oppose this thing? Because someday I want to start a business. And if I can rent cheaper, I can save money to start my own business. That's the person the council is supporting. They're not supporting the person who needs affordable housing. They're not supporting the property owner who pays the taxes into the town. They're supporting this ideology that says, if I can just grab some free or cheap real estate, let's find a way to let them do it. Then they'll vote for us.
Well, I have seen the DSA in action at rallies in New York City and elsewhere, and at least nationally, they are bat guano insane in terms of the things that they say, calling for the destruction of foreign countries, calling America the imperial core that must be
Defund the
destroyed.
police.
You know,
Stop
really
private property rights. Give me a break.
far out there stuff that, the
You know what, as
Democratic
we were
Party is
kids,
not with.
work hard, make some money, and make your own choices to do with your money what you want. Nobody says everybody has to make money. Nobody says everybody has to have a value system that says, I want to earn a lot of money. Fine. You don't have to. But when you don't, there's consequences to that. You don't get to live in the nicest place in New Jersey. But there's nice places to live in Kearney. There's nice places to live in West New York. Why should Hoboken be the place that underwrites these expenses for people who've determined on their own volition that they don't want to make money?
Well, we are just about out of time. 20-second pitch.
You know what we're out of time for? We're out of time for this dopey virtue messaging government.
Mhm.
It's killing everybody. And this referendum is a signal. Stop this nonsense. Vote for something that works. Give people the affordable housing they need, and let a property owner enjoy the benefits of owning housing and improving it to the point where somebody actually wants to live in it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I hope you'll come back again. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Vote yes.
Peter Biancamano back with you. Don't forget to watch us on cable access every Sunday and Monday at 9 a.m. Optimum Channel 18, Files Channel 46, and Comcast Channel 190. Also on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m., you can watch our show on our YouTube channel, and you can also binge watch all of our old shows. Who doesn't want to keep watching The Pulse with Peter B? We'll see you there.
Welcome back to the Pulse with Peter B. Peter Biancamano back in the host chair and back with another exciting educational segment, because not making his Pulse premiere, he's been on the show before, is my good friend, but this time he is officially a Board of Education member here in Hoboken, and that is Antonio Grana. Great to see you
Good to see you,
again.
Peter.
Absolutely. The last time you were on, we spoke about your election to the board, or you were
Yes.
running for election to the board. Congratulations on winning.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. But that was 2 years ago, if you can imagine.
Yes.
I mean, where does the time go, right?
A lot has happened.
I was going to say. So why don't we start out with what you feel is your biggest accomplishment thus far, 2 years on the board?
Well, if I was to talk about my own personal accomplishment, I would say, we talked about the last time we met, the importance of transparency and communication and these kinds of activities. We talked about that a lot. And we talked about helping the community understand the bigger role that the school is actually playing in the community. So I'd like to say on this board, and it's not just me alone, but I think we've had a hard push for transparency, broadcasting our successes, broadcasting our challenges. And I actually think, for me, the culmination of that was this year. We had, nobody likes it, but we had to do a tax increase, as you know. And the presentation was very open to the community, and I think everybody appreciated that, and we got really good feedback. The other accomplishments are really, I can't take credit for all of this. It's really, when you get on the board, you realize how much of a team this is.
That's awesome.
But the accomplishments of the districts of the last 2 years, happy to talk about them. They've been numerous.
Okay. Phenomenal. Where there are accomplishments, though, there are some challenges. And
Yes.
you did mention the tax increase.
Yes.
And a lot of the tax increase has to do with the increase of enrollment. Am I
Correct.
right or wrong? So I know that a challenge in the district has been spacing issues. Is that still the biggest challenge the district is facing?
I think there's two challenges. So one of them is a state challenge. I sit on the New Jersey School Boards Association Legislative Committee, and I represent Hoboken. So, you see common things. One has been the change in the funding mechanisms over the last several years, commonly known as S2. Fortunately for us, that's coming to an end and stabilizing. So I don't see it as big of an issue, but it means that you have to raise your local fair share. As far as facility is concerned, I've said this before, Peter. If you improve the product, the demand goes up.
Correct.
And that's what we're experiencing. This year, we will need to find seats. We are finding seats for somewhere between, we predict 250 to 280 new students.
Okay.
And that will be across all of the schools. And that requires us to be efficient with our facilities. Are we working actively on long-term solutions? You bet.
Nice. Well, and you have to, right? In this,
Yes.
market, absolutely. Let's talk about your goals going forward. This kind of leads you into what your goals are going forward. You are in a 3-year term, so you do have another year on your term, and that's up to you if you want to run for re-election. We're not going to ask you yet on the polls, maybe me at the end. Some of your goals that you're looking forward to accomplishing in this next year.
Well, I would like to see a couple things sustained. I chair the curriculum committee. And
A very difficult committee. I was on the board for 6 years.
oh, were you? Yeah. Okay.
You knew I was going to drop it.
Peter was on the board.
Exactly.
Huge accomplishment. So one of the things that came out this year was in the New York Times, it's a report by Stanford University that, we've all been concerned about COVID and learning loss and these kinds of things. And Hoboken schools showed that not only did our improvement gap, not only increase during COVID, it didn't stop. A lot of people have been worried about learning loss. Our results continued on the upward trend. It slowed a little bit, and then in the following year, we've taken right back off again. So we, have gone from like a school that performed under the state average. Now we perform as a district above the state average, and we are now the top public school district in Hudson County.
Wow, congratulations.
I would like to see all of the efforts that we're doing inside curriculum sustain that growth pattern.
Yeah. The next point I wanted to touch up on was the things you're most proud of in the district, but I think you just mentioned it, correct?
Those are some, if not many. So when I look at, there's a feeling in the district, and it's a really hard thing. There's a vibe in the district that's really positive because we see the accomplishments. We know we have challenges, but if you were to say go into the high school, you would now be going to a high school with an internationally recognized debate program, with a nationally recognized theater program.
Which we featured a lot on the show, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
You'd have 20 AP classes to choose from, 25 sports to choose from. If you're going into the earlier grades, you'll get your child's going to go to a blue ribbon certified school with Orton Gillingham trained specialists in the school. And you're going to have like what we call the 10th player, which is Hoboken itself, which is such a great place to raise kids.
That is wonderful. And speaking of raising kids, you're just giving me all the segues today, Antonio. I love this. Obviously, more important than being a board member, you are a parent.
I am.
Of how many students in the district?
I have one student in the district.
A son or a daughter, I'm sorry.
That is my daughter.
Your daughter, correct. If parents are watching at home and they're trying to decide whether or not to put their children in the district schools, coming from a parent, not a board member, what do you have to say to them?
Here's what I would say. When I joined the school district, our family joined the school district in kindergarten, it was the directionality of the district, the leadership in the district, the intentionality and the culture of the district that made us interested and committed to stay. But we made a lot of investments in that time. So if you were going into the elementary schools today, you would have all kinds of innovation. We have not only the curriculum, but we have trained and now certifying all of our teachers on Orton Gillingham methodology, which is a capability we started just for individualized learning plan. Now it's every teacher for every kid. Okay, you would be going into a school with dual language education. This is not common. This is innovation. And you'd be going into a school that has recently run a Blue Ribbon Award for excellence. So I would be really excited. I wish we could go back and do it all over again.
Yeah, seriously, absolutely. Well, Antonio, we have less than 2 minutes here. We spoke about you possibly running for re-election next year, but I'm still not up to that point yet.
Not there yet.
Not there yet. In less than 3 weeks, we actually have, of course, have a presidential election. We have a senator election. We have a U.S. House election, but we also have a rent control referendum, as you know. But we also have a school board election, where there are 4 members, or 4 candidates, I should say, running for 3 spots on the Hoboken Board of Education. Who are you supporting and why?
Okay, well, I'm endorsing Milani, Aileen, and Tom.
Right.
You know, and there's a couple reasons. One of the things that when you get on a board like this, you know, first year you're realizing how much there is to learn. You have to learn how school districts are run. You have to learn the legislative environment. There's all these things that you now learn. But if you like the way the schools have gone because your kid's in that district, you quickly begin to realize this has happened because of people who've come before you. It's not just you, it's the efforts of lots of people over the last 5, 10, 15 years. So if you like the way the schools are going, these are 3 leaders who have helped get us there.
Yeah.
Tom Cliffel, Milani Conavatore, and Aileen Booker.
Well,
I
Mr.
endorse them
Antonio
wholeheartedly.
Grana, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hopefully you'll be back here next year. Maybe we'll be talking about your reelection.
Let's hope.
Let's hope is right. And congratulations on all the wonderful accomplishments the schools are doing. And thank you. I was on the board, as we joked, and it is a thankless job. It is an unpaid job, and it is the toughest elected position in, I think, all of the country.
And absolutely a true and heartfelt labor of love.
Absolutely. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Antonio.
Peter.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, join us next week for The Pulse on everything you need to know. I'm Peter Biancamano. I hope you have a great week, everybody.